Hello, Horizons. Welcome to Fcast. Everything is football. Once again, Mayukh, am back with a brand new season. And as you know, this is the Euro season, so what an excellent time for all the football fans all around the world. So today's episode is one of the most anticipated episodes, which have been eagerly waiting for. So I have two very exciting guests with me. But before going to the chief guest tonight, I would rather introduce Rohit Parab today because Rohit Parab joined us last season as one of the guests. But after that, for a long time, he has been an integral part of FCAST, and today he's doing his debut as a host. And so over to you, Rohit, and I would request you to introduce our chief guest.
Hey, thank you so much, Mayukh. Once again, hello, citizens, and thank you so much for having me again. I mean, last season we had some really good conversation around football, and I know we did an episode on African football, and we also did an episode on the favorites for the season's Premier League. And unfortunately, some of my predictions didn't turn out to be true in terms of Liverpool retaining the league. And I hate your background, but I know why you set it up, because our chief guest today is a major United fan. So we're going to just throw the Euro theme out and stick with the United team today, I guess. So without further ado, I'll just introduce everyone to Abhik. Abhik is my friend from back home, Vashi, Navi Mumbai. We've connected over football. We've connected over this age-old United-Liverpool rivalry. We also did an episode ourselves when we were kind of covering the 2014 World Cup, and we've been in between several projects, not just with regard to football, but with several other things. And it's been my conversations with him have always been very insightful and very informative. So excited to have you, Abhik, today on the show. And tell us a little bit about yourself, Abhik.
Hi, thank you guys for having me. I think I've done a lot of, I keep doing a lot of podcasts on and off with a lot of friends of mine who are into football, and it's always great to see. I think the last couple of years has shown more and more people who are very eager to get into this conversation. And I always find I always have time for that. Whenever someone wants to discuss football with me, I'm always up for it, because I feel the more people, especially with Indians, I think the world views Indians as people who just watch the sport. I think the world views Indians as people not capable of having a discussion, because they feel India is a very cricket-heavy nation. So it's always good to see people talking about it. Professionally, I've been involved in football for 10 years now. I started off as an engineer. I've done nothing to justify my educational background, much to the, sheer misery of a lot of people who've asked me why I chose to do engineering in the first place.
You have a similar company, I guess.
Yeah.
I have been involved with the Indian Super League since its inception in 2014. Now currently I'm the head of football operations for Odisha FC, which is an Indian Super League club. And because I'm closely involved with football day to day, I think for me, football is a passion and a profession. So 24/7, I'm talking football in some form or the other. So, for me, it's always great whenever I can extend my views, my ideas with guys like you who want to talk about the game. So once again, thank you for having me.
Yeah, that surely raises the level of excitement within us. But before going, as you know, this is a Euro special episode. But I cannot move ahead without asking you one question, because that is something I always wanted to ask somebody who is into this profession. So because whoever comes in our podcast, the very first question we ask is, what was your beautiful game moment? That is, when did you fall in love with the game? But for you, I won't ask that question. I would ask a similar question. When did you think that you can actually what was that particular point? I would just want to know that incident when you thought, no, I will make this as my profession. What a particular incident that made you take this decision?
It was a very, now that you ask me, it was a very, I would say, impulsive decision, because I remember at the time I was working at actually working at Reliance Communications as a project manager. And I remember I used to do my own YouTube videos from time to time. I was more into the broadcast side of the game. I still aspire to commentate, and hopefully down the road that happens in some form or the other. And I've done YouTube shows with, say, guys like John Dykes, guys like Joe Morrison, etc. Who used to host the Champions League nights on 10 Sports a while back. And I remember I did a few with Parab also, just because I wanted to do it, just because it was a passion, and I saw that as a way of fulfilling it. But when the Indian Super League was starting, and the conversations were happening that, Reliance is going to now come into the Indian football landscape and professionalize it, give it a much more professional outlook, invest money into it, take the sport up a notch, because I've been following Indian football before the Indian Super League happened as well. The I League, the National Football League, when it was called the NFL. And the one thing which always, I think, Indian fans complained about, or the one thing that the Indian fans said there was a lack of in the I League or the NFL was, I think, the professional lacquer, the way it's viewed, how it's broadcasted, etc., etc. At that moment, I felt, here's an opportunity for me to maybe be associated with something, and it would be a historic association because I would be involved in it from the very beginning. And I actively started looking for people who could induct me into it, because I came with no background. I've not studied sports management. I did not know anybody at that time inside the system. It took me a lot of time to research, get in touch with people. I made a lot of cold calls just to find out who was behind this entire thing that was happening, because on the outside it was very secretive. Nobody knew who exactly was involved, who was doing everything. We just used to read in the newspapers that this is going to happen, this is going to happen. The internet was full of articles about, that something is going to happen in another year's time, etc., etc. But then there was a breakthrough. I spoke to people, and it happened for me. I took a impulsive decision. I left my job. I remember telling my mother that I'm going to, go into this, and she asked me, "Are you absolutely sure? Is this what you want to do? Is this where your heart at?" And I said yes, and she supported me, which I'll always, I always thank my mother for that, because she never questioned me. She never said, you're crazy, you're out of your mind, because it's a 360-degree career change. There's the fields aren't even related remotely. But then that happened, and I've never looked back after that. I got into it. I took a pay cut when I joined, I remember, and but I was too excited to notice that. I was too excited to notice that I was getting paid less. And I think it's 11 years now, and it's been though it makes me cry at times in terms of, football has its ups and downs. It's a game of extremes. Football is never a game of averages. You're either very happy or you're very sad. You'll never be at a average emotional level. But it's worth it. That's what makes it. That's what makes it exciting. That's what keeps you on your toes all day. So I never complain, and I feel I'm very privileged, because a lot of people on the outside tell me how they want to be where I am and how they want to do what I do. So I understand that I'm in a position of privilege that way. So I never ever complain, however bad a day I'm having, about my job, because I enjoy doing what I'm doing.
That's amazing to hear, Abhik. And I've seen this story unfold, because I remember when you first got into this field, you were, like you said, you were a program manager, you were a program manager at Reliance, and then from there you took that leap. And I know how anxious you were at that point. I mean, you were excited, obviously, but there was this air of anxiety as to what's going to unfold and how this is going to go ahead, because obviously Indian football wasn't. I mean, of course, Indian football has its own grassroots, but it wasn't established as such in terms of mass engagement or in terms of the general audience. So to take that leap in itself was very brave of you, and I'm pretty sure it's going to encourage a lot of young aspirants. who want to be in your position, in the future and take football as a profession?
Absolutely.
Of course, whenever I
Yes, yes,
go,
Abhik, please.
whenever I invited to my college for talks, my professors invite me and they ask me to speak to students. So whenever I go there, I start telling them about taking up sports as a career, and then my lecturers are very pissed off. They're like, "Why is he telling them to take up sports? They should be telling them, and he should be encouraging them to." But I keep encouraging students to take up sports because I think apart from football, there are a lot of other leagues that have popped up in India as well. The Pro Kabaddi League, if you see, if you look at it, even the IPL, etc. There is a demand for skilled sports management professionals, and it's a very, very rewarding career for those who actually want to be. I think there are some people who get a kick out of it when they are doing things because it makes them be close to the sport that they love, and also things move at 100 miles an hour here. You're not having a slow day at work with your laptop in front of you 9 to 5. So for those people who like that sort of thrill at work, who like their adrenaline rush, who want to be close to the sport, they love, it's the perfect field to get into.
So basically, these are stories hearing which we just get goosebumps. So and in case we just start talking to you about this, I think we can have at least one season complete with multiple episodes. So.
Yeah.
But as I said, this is a Euro special. So let's now listen. Let's now talk about the Euro and let's hear the insights from you. So Rohit, let's start with first things first, right? Right from the start of the tournament, since the first kick on the ball, I think there was one team all over the place. That was Italy. And I think we need to talk about Italy. What a performance. They missed out on 2018 World Cup. And what a comeback in a big tournament like this. So Abhik, what is the biggest change you see, apart from the style of play, which is very evident that Italy has completely changed the gears and they have changed the style of their play. And under Mancini, I think they look altogether a different unit. So what are your insights on that?
I think to attribute the success they've had in the group stages, I won't call it a complete success because they need to progress deeper into the tournament for me to label it as that. But I think you need to go way, way back. And I think there was a time wherein Italy was full of aging stars, people who I think were at the fag end of their career, and they weren't qualified. There've been instances they haven't even qualified for these tournaments altogether. And I think there was a lot of collective angst from the Italians in general because they wanted fresh blood. You had players who came into the Italian side at that point of time, but still, if you look at the squad right now, Italy feels like almost like a complete unit. Yes, you have two centre backs in Bonucci and Chiellini who are, let's put it in a way, who are now in the final stages of their career. But I think they provide that perfect foil to the rest of the side because you've got a host of relatively unknown names right now in the Italian side, which a lot of people, suddenly people are turning up and say, midfielders like Locatelli, etc., who I think a lot of people haven't seen play, but these guys have been around. They've been there in the Serie A for people who watch the Serie A, and these guys have been around quietly under the surface, bubbling under the surface, doing their thing. And a lot of people are now taken aback by how cohesive the entire unit is from back to front. And also, I think Italy went through a phase wherein they felt Mario Balotelli was going to be the next big thing. Didn't happen. Luca Toni finished his career, and they missed that number 9 as well. And now in Insigne and who's just jogged my memory with the
Ciro Immobile.
Ciro Immobile, I think they've got two players capable of scoring at will, almost, because Ciro Immobile is a sort of, I think he's what Italy needed. Strong target man, capable of getting the midfielders to link off him because he's your quintessential sort of man who runs the channels. But also, apart from that, he has a very good footballing brain, and his relationship with Insigne I think has been very, very critical, because Insigne is also somebody who, for what he's achieved, I think a lot of people underrate him. He's one of those players who you don't take that seriously, but is bound to make a difference when, at the big stage, when he has the backing and when he has the confidence of the manager. Because let's not forget it, I think uh, in the Serie A, I think Insigne's name commands a lot of respect given the number of goals he scored and the sort of, career that he's had. So I think what has worked for Mancini is the perfect culmination of everything coming together at the right time. And let's not kid ourselves, they've put together a fantastic run. And I don't know how it's well over
29 games, I guess.
29 games that they haven't conceded in. So, a lot of respect has to go to Mancini, I think, for the way he's shaped this team. You can clearly see his imprint on the team, the sort of football that they play. And this is not the sort of football you actually associate with Italy a lot.
Yeah.
This team likes to play. Italy in the past has been a team that's been heavily reliant on its defense and counter-attack. But I think this team, despite having a solid defense, also wants to play. They want to get on the ball. They want to sort of make the opposition open up, stretch them, play to the center, play out wide. And from whatever I've seen in the 3 games, I think they have what it takes to go into the latter stages of the competition. But now is the true test. Now they're going to be facing the teams, I think, in the last 16, in the last 8, if they get through the last 16, who I think have the capability to test that defense of Bonucci and Chiellini a little more. And these teams have got a lot of pace up front as well. So that's where the true test is. But I have no doubt that I think Italy are a team that you can expect to go into the later stages of the competition just based off their form in the group stages.
I agree.
Yeah.
Just talking about the camaraderie. I mean the system that they've set from front to back. I mean the camaraderie within the squad is commendable, because I've watched all of Italy's games in the group stages, and you can see, like, every time there's a substitution, there's everyone from the non-playing stuff, going up to the players and cheering them on, and there's this vibe around the Italian squad which I don't think we've seen in a really long time. I mean, they're being very expressive and very approachable, and I think Mancini has created something really special here, and it like I said, it'll be like the group stages, the knockout stages will be a test of an aging defense, but it is also an experienced defense with a mix of some really up and coming good up and coming talent. So it'll be interesting to see how Italy maneuver this situation.
The one person who I missed out on, sorry, Mayukh. The one person whose name I missed out is Verratti. I think there was a stage wherein a lot of people looked at Verratti as the natural successor of Andrea Pirlo, but it didn't happen, because Verratti, for all his qualities, was a very volatile character, prone to getting I think he still has a remarkable number of yellow and red cards given the short career that he's had with the national team. But I think Mancini has found a way to control that volatility. And you can clearly see that he's controlling the midfield for Italy. He's the linchpin. He's the person whom the game goes through in midfield. And I think this tournament, if Italy go deep into the tournament, shall define or shall sort of shape or put the final touches on Verratti's promising career. Because what he's done so far, though, people are sort of looking at Ciro Immobile and Insigne because they're scoring the goals, and Locatelli to an extent. But I think he's gone about things quietly. He's not been flashy, and Verratti is someone who likes the attention. It's given because he plays for PSG and all of that. But he, I think, has turned up in this competition with a point to prove. I think he's been very, very important for them as well.
And also, we see an Italian team which is not only we have players from the big 3 clubs. This is one of the rare teams where we see players from all over Italy, and that is also a perfect unity in diversity which Italy team is enjoying. Otherwise, they always had players from the big clubs coming, and that consisted of the 2 Milans and Juventus. And I think apart from that, there are hardly 4 or 5 players in a 23-member squad. But I think that is a culture and that has a lot to do with the current state of Italian football also. So let's not get into that. That is a different discussion altogether. yeah, we can have a separate discussion on that. Now, coming to this question, I would like to go to Abhik, but I would like to ask Rohit first because I know he's a Liverpool fan. So, as we see, Netherlands have won all three matches, but a lot of the most of the credit goes to the captain Wijnaldum, and we see Wijnaldum is moving to Nou Camp this year. So, what is your quick take on that before we can hear Abhik's insight?
I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up, but it pains to see one of our most beloved players playing so well. I mean, and just to correct, Wijnaldum did snub Barcelona, and he's on his way to PSG now apparently for a higher fee. So
it's announced.
It's announced.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh wow,
So
that's something.
I'm pretty sure PSG is they've definitely found a balanced midfielder, a complete midfielder, and he's one of those rare players whom you cannot take the ball off. I mean, I I never rated Wijnaldum as much when he first joined from Newcastle, but since like under Klopp, he has kind of gone through this slow upward trajectory, which has been very consistent. And you saw the peak of it obviously during that game against Barcelona, where he showed what he's all about. And to be honest, I like at the start of the tournament, I wasn't really big on Netherlands as well with their defensive frailties. Obviously, they have some really good names in defense, but still, it's still uncooked, I would say. I mean, the presence of Virgil van Dijk would definitely have had made a difference. But full credit to Wijnaldum, that midfield and his link-up play with Frankie De Jong, it's been exceptional. All right, this guy has been dictating the play. He has been scoring goals. He's been that complete leader for Netherlands, and for his size and his presence and his stature in world football. It kind of came off as a surprise. I mean, he's been really championing this team, and I'm pretty sure Abhik has some insights on that too.
I think Netherlands, if you look at it, they've missed some big names, and I'm sure the squad would have been even stronger with them, as Rohit said. They're missing Virgil van Dijk. Donny van der Beek was also ruled out due to an injury, so they're missing some decent players. But I think the one player who has impressed me so much, and who I think fans don't know a lot about, is Donyell Malen, because for those who don't know, he's coming off the back of an incredible Eredivisie with PSV. I think he scored around 32 goals. And of course, the attention is going to be on Memphis Depay, because he's completed his move to Barcelona, and he's one of the flair players that they have, and one of the players they bank on for goals. But I think together with Malen, I think, and also one thing which a lot of people are noticing is how Matthias de Ligt has stepped in and sort of, I won't say he can cover for Van Dijk, because nobody can, but I think he's making Netherlands miss him a lot less, because his performances, I think, dropped a level. Let me put it that way. After he joined Juventus, given all the excitement that surrounded him when he was at Ajax and a captain at such a young age, and when he made that move to Juventus, especially when you have Mino Raiola as your agent, it was almost as if he was going to be the best centre back in the world. But reality catches up with you. You're a young boy. You're going into a league which is much tougher than the Eredivisie, and you're going into a team like Juventus, wherein you have experienced hands in the team, and you've got a lot of egos floating around. So I think it took some time for him to get his feet under the desk there at Juventus, but I think he's had a good Euros as well. And also somebody who I'm very impressed with is Dumfries, who I think he's chipped in with a few vital goals. And the thing that surprised me was Netherlands announcing Wijnaldum as their captain. Because I in 100 years I would not have expected Wijnaldum to be named as captain of Euros, because I did not see him as that character, as that talismanic figure whom they could rally around. But clearly, I think there's something that's right in the team, and he's led them well. I think if you look, if people forget that, of course, Wijnaldum is not a big flashy name that you can look at, but he's a Champions League winner and he scored important goals. He's won the Premier League. So, you have to put respect on that name. And also a lot of people, I think, care less about the Netherlands coach. I don't think he has a lot of fans. And, Frank de Boer, I think it's almost like appointing, someone from, I don't know. It's almost like appointing a lift operator as a coach of Netherlands. That's how people viewed Frank de Boer, and he had a horrible time in England as well. And some of the comments he made, I think people almost expected Netherlands to fail and to falter, but it's not been the case. But if you ask me realistically, if they get past the round of 16, they're not a side I really expect to go very deep into the tournament, because Netherlands have their frailties. And, if you're coming up against, say, a side like Italy or a side like Belgium, I expect them to have problems, because though they're a good side to watch, they're not a very mature side like, say, an Italy or a Belgium at this point of time. And if they keep adding to this plethora of talent that they possess, and maybe Van Dijk comes back, I expect the next World Cup to be good for them. I expect, them to be stronger than they are, but I think they've done well. I think credit should go to them for qualifying, for topping their group. But now my expectations from Netherlands is not that much. Of course, their fans would want them to go all the way and win, but I feel that they've sort of peaked, and I think they can be found out on their day by some of the better teams in the latter stages of the competition.
Also, to give a funny fact here, Netherlands have either not qualified for a major tournament or has at least played the semi-final in the last 15 years in whatever tournament. So that is a funny fact to put about Netherlands. So one more team, I think, who has won all the matches is Belgium. And I think Belgium needs a special mention. But I want to ask both of you, are you really very happy with the way Belgium is playing as compared to the game they were playing in the qualifiers, or they were playing probably in the last World Cup? Or there is some X factor which is missing?
I think it's a good manager that they're missing. I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, to be honest, Belgium were definitely playing better football in the last international tournament, which was the World Cup. In this group stages specifically, I mean, it would be a little harsh to say that they're not playing well. They were obviously playing well. They obviously played really well in the first game. But in the second game, though, they were kind of slow to start because they didn't have, the same presence. Like it didn't sound like a Belgium team. Like when they announced the starting 11, it sounded like Belgium was playing for a friendly match or such. And we saw the effect of that. They were trailing. And then the moment they brought the big guns out in the form of De Bruyne, Hazard, the whole gameplay completely changed. Like the whole dynamic of that team completely changed. You could see Romelu Lukaku, entering dangerous spaces, which he wasn't able to do when De Bruyne wasn't in midfield. And then it was that's when I realized that, okay, this Belgium team is looking like a serious contender. But until that time, it didn't really, the game really didn't appeal to me as much.
I think you're absolutely right, but I also think Belgium has hardly had to get out of second or third gear in the group stage. I feel they haven't had to go to fourth gear, and the scary bit is, I think, De Bruyne, the last two games, you can see him finding his range very, very quickly. I mean, when he came on as a substitute, and I think he set up a goal, scored one, you can already see that he's trying to. I think he's so pissed off after losing the Champions League final. It's almost that he's taken it very, very personally. The thing that Belgium will definitely miss is Hazard. I think any team, when you have a talent like him, and to see what's happened to him in the last couple of years, from a pure footballing standpoint, because I'm a United fan, and definitely I did not like him playing for Chelsea, etc. But you respect him. You like watching him play. He's someone who can change a game, turn it on its head single-handedly. He's a player with that level of talent. And it pains me as a football fan to see where he is now currently, because a Hazard Hazard, who was at his prime in Chelsea, he walks into this Belgium team on that sort of form. And suddenly you're looking at a completely different team with Hazard and De Bruyne, in your midst. So I think they're lacking, of course, but they haven't, it's not stopped them in any way. I think they're one of the teams that can attack and defend equally well. Given that they also now have mature defenders like Italy, I think they're in a similar sort of stage in terms of where the careers of their centre backs are headed. But I think Romelu Lukaku has, if you look at Hazard going down, you similarly look at how Romelu Lukaku has just resurrected his career at Inter Milan. Although I think he did not do too bad at Manchester United. I think everybody just climbed on his back for no reason at all, because over the 2 seasons he scored us over 40 goals, which despite all the criticism about his touch and every single thing, I thought it was unfair at times. And he's just gone on to Inter Milan to show that he's now one of the top, in my opinion, 3 elite strikers in the world today. And him sort of taking up the mantle has also helped Belgium, because had Lukaku not been firing, it would have been difficult for them. With Hazard not being in the form he is, they would definitely have missed someone up front to provide them with the goals. But, he's in red hot form. And I think Belgium are also helped by the fact that they've got a manager now who's been around for quite a bit of time. I think though he's not the best manager to manage the team, in my opinion, but he's been with them. He's been now it's over 5 years now, and he's been with the Belgium team, so he knows them inside out. He knows their qualities, and I think he's a manager who, though not as though he's not as good tactically as some of the other managers in the competition, but I think he is sort of lets his players do their thing, because for a team like Belgium, you need someone who can manage egos, because there are a lot of them. And he's got Thierry Henry as a part of his backroom staff, who is the biggest ego of them all, because Thierry, despite what a lot of people believe, is not as loved by his coaches, etc., because they considered him to be to possess an ego the size of Australia at times. And I happen to know that because our assistant coach the last season was Gerald Payton, who's worked at Arsenal for 15 years as the goalkeeping coach under Arsene Wenger, and he was a part of the Invincibles setup, and then the team that won the Golden Premier League. And he told me, so, but it clearly has had an effect on Lukaku and some of the rest of them, because I think a lot of them look up to Thierry Henry. They are still in awe of him, and he sort of, I think, comes in with pedigree. So a lot of small facts I think have added up, and I think Belgium have not had to press that hard to get out of this group. They will have to now that they are up against, and I think the game against Portugal. I'm a Portugal fan. I've been one since a long time, and I hope Portugal beats Belgium. But it's going to be a very, very tough game, given the sort of firepower that they possess up top, in the middle, and at the back. I think again they should be counted as one of the favorites in this competition.
Yep, I totally agree, and I'm honestly I was rooting for Germany the last time around, and then I had to just transpose the flag a bit, so now I'm rooting for Belgium. But yeah, all said and done, it's going to be a cracker of a game. And speaking of Portugal, I mean, we cannot finish this episode without talking about Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, that guy. So, I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo, what can we say about him? There are his doubters still, and I don't think he should have any doubters for the next 10 years, I guess. This guy is in peak form, peak fitness. Man turns up to a tournament, the rest of his team is at least like 10, 12 years younger than him on an average. And this guy turns up at the grandest stage and shows who's boss. And I'm pretty sure, Abhik, I know you are a lifelong fan of Ronaldo, and so are you, Mayukh. And I mean, I have to give it to him. I know he's an ex-United player, but this guy he just epitomizes football for me. And of course, that snub of Coke was also, I mean, I think only he can do that, right?
I think I see a lot of fans will turn up and say he scored 3 penalties. But for me, the last time I checked, penalties were still a part of football. So there's a section of the fan base that I think now for some footballer to be respected, I think he needs to score all his goals from outside the box. He can't score penalties. He can't score tap-ins. He only has to score 18 to 25 yard strikes. That's only when he'll be considered to be, one of the greatest footballers of all time. But, apart from that, I think apart from the goals that he brings, I think it's just his mentality. People forget that at 36 years of age, considering the sort of abuse that his body has taken over the years, because, he's one of the most, along with even Messi, he's been one of the most fouled players ever in the history of football. For him to take that sort of abuse year after year and to keep himself in this physical condition at the age of 36 is remarkable. I think considering the fact that he's had a subpar domestic season with Juventus, because Juventus are expected to win the Serie A every time. I think his motivation, his hunger, he's won the Euros, but it clearly hasn't. It's not reflected in his body language because he wants to win one more. I do think Portugal are a little light for this competition. They have some good attacking talent, but you can see that they sort of struggle to beat the bigger teams. They got found out by Germany, and the game against France. Though they played well, you could just not see them, taking that next step and toppling France. But they won the last Euros this way. No one expected them to reach the finals, and they were at the bottom of the group. They scraped through the group stages, similar to what it is right now. Kept winning the ties, and suddenly turned up in the final and kept France out for the entire match and scored one goal. So you can never put it past them. But I think it's just his elite mentality. And now he's the joint top scorer for the men's game, just one goal away from achieving the all-time record. I think irrespective of whether he scored those goals against Luxembourg or whatever sort of teams he's played, he can only score the goals against the teams that are put in front of him. It's not that Ronaldo picks his fixtures. Pick Luxembourg for me, 7 or 8 times so that I can score 15 goals against them. It's not like that. You can only score against the teams that you play against. And and I can draw a reference with Sunil Chhetri as well. I think he's the third on the list in terms of the active goal scorers in world football. If you look at, for Sunil, the sort of opposition that he plays against, that's hard for him. Sunil doesn't need to score goals against Portugal, France, and Italy to be branded as a great. For us, in Indian football, that's our level. When we are playing against Afghanistan, and we're playing against Qatar, and we're playing against Dubai, and we're playing against UAE, and we're playing against Oman. That's our level. And Sunil, I think for the last 10 years or so, has been our top goal scorer. So for him, that's his threshold. In a macrocosm, that's India's level. And to score close to 65 goals or for him is a remarkable achievement.
73.
So you can only score against the opposition that's put out in front of you, and then that goes. And it's the same for Ronaldo. So when he's continuing to score goals, whether it's penalties, whether it's whatever it is, it's not easy to take penalties at this stage. And the second penalty he took against France was a pressure cooker situation. Had he missed that, I don't think Portugal would have come back in that game, because I think France were slowly building momentum and they were the team that had the upper hand, and they would have probably scored a few more. But that elite mentality that he has is, whether people consider him to be the greatest footballer of all time, doesn't matter. There will be people who think Messi is the greatest, and rightly so, for a lot of reasons. But you cannot deny this man respect. He's an example for all of us in any walk of life to, show us the insane amount of hunger he has, even at this age, after winning almost everything. Apart from the World Cup, I think he's won every single thing that he can win, right? And you still see this man so motivated to win things at this age. So it's remarkable.
Yeah, I just want to add two more facts. Yeah, I just want to add two more facts. So if you see the current state of Portugal team, so a lot of youngsters like Bruno Fernandes, Jota, and probably Bernardo Silva, they have actually grown up watching Ronaldo. And this is a very special tournament because Ronaldo is now leading them and they are just playing under him. So that makes the tournament even more special. And secondly, one more record which has made he's now the highest scoring European in big tournaments. He has broken, if I'm not wrong, he has broken Jurgen Klinsmann's record, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
So this man is just there are hardly words in which you can describe Ronaldo. He's much more than that. You can put through words. So now, after discussing Portugal, I think that takes us to the final two teams before going to the predictions. But let's keep the world champions for the last. Let's talk about the not so mighty Germans. Once they were known as the mighty Germans, but now they are consistently inconsistent. So how do you see Germany's performance? I think they have been spot on against Portugal. But the other two performances, do you really think they have a good future in this tournament? Or do you think, no, this is not a Germany's cup of tea this time?
I think the when you look at this Germany team, you don't feel it's Germany. I don't know if Rohit understands what I'm saying. But whenever Germany has played in any sort of European competition or the World Cup, you can easily identify them in terms of how meticulous they were. See, German teams have always been well-oiled engines. Whether it's been the team that won the World Cup, it's whether it's a team that has always progressed to and has at least reached the semi-finals or finals of other competitions consistently. They've always been well-oiled machine. And when I look at this team, I don't know, for some reason, I don't feel it's Germany, apart from the fact that Joachim Löw is coaching them. That's the only reason I have to believe that, this is the guy who won the World Cup for them. He's still their coach, which tells me that, it's a German team. And I don't think you can blame the coach altogether for this. It's just been a drop-off in terms of so many good players who were the cause for Germany achieving so much over the years, especially now. You can just see it so clearly in German football. They lack an out-and-out striker. They lack an out-and-out number 9. Ever since Miroslav Klose retired, I don't... And even the World Cup that they won, they were hanging on by their nails. You could see that Germany was struggling to score goals. You could see that. Apart from the game against Brazil, which I think was a freak result where everybody had a, free-for-all. You could... Even in the final against Argentina, they got pushed all the way, almost. And they won that tournament, but you could see that it's coming to an end. That cycle is coming to an end, and all of us were wondering who's going to be the next great striker to replace, Miroslav Klose, and nobody has. Now they're playing with, Timo Werner up front, and then sometimes, he's used as a false 9, and I think they're relying a lot on their wingers in terms of Leroy Sané and in terms of some of their other midfielders like Gundogan to maybe step up, score a few goals. But I don't think this side has that cohesiveness because, Toni Kroos he's a fabulous player, but he can't pull the load every single day. It's almost as if he's tasked with everything. He's tasked with making this team tick. He's tasked with creating things on a daily basis from midfield. And I think he's lacking, I think, a partner who can, and in the good old days, you had people like Ballack and Schweinsteiger in one team, and that was a different time. But I certainly think Germany, despite having the one player who stood out for me in Kai Havertz, who I love absolutely to bits, even before he came to Chelsea, I was, I used to tell my brother, I hope United signs him. And I'd already signed him in Football Manager and in FIFA. And I really, I think he's a generational talent. But
he won me a lot of points in the Champions League final in Dream 11.
So, but you can't put the weight of the world on someone as young as him on his shoulders and expect him to deliver game in and game out. So, and Kai Havertz is not a 9. Kai Havertz is, he's, I don't know, I like to call him, he's a cross between a 10 and 11, almost like a 10 and a half. He's comfortable going out wide. He's comfortable occupying the pocket between say a striker and your offensive midfielder, multi-dimensional, but he's not a 9. And the fact that whatever he scored for Germany is a huge bonus. They should be thanking him for the amount of goals he scored. But I think when you've got someone like a Timo Werner in the squad, who's of course he's found it hard at Chelsea, you need him to score goals in a tournament like this, because all the teams have done well, their main strikers are fired. Whether it's Belgium, whether it's France, now even Karim Benzema got in on the act. Whether it's Portugal, you've got Cristiano, scoring all those goals. You look at the only anomaly has been England, where Sterling has scored 2 goals and got them through. Kane has not scored a lot, but the goals can come for them. But for Germany, I don't see a way out. I think they are a team that can do very well on their day. But when you sort of expect them to put in the kind of consistent performances like Belgium and Italy are, I think Hungary almost undid them. Hungary was leading for a majority of that game, and they're not even like a top side.
Yep.
And they are a side that, for example, Portugal beat 3-0 and Germany beat Portugal. So you have to wonder what went wrong for them in that game, and they just barely made it through. So again, I feel like Portugal as well. I think Germany, and like Netherlands, Germany, I think have a limited shelf life in this competition. Unless some miracle happens, I don't see them going like very deep into it. I think the 16s, and they scrape through maybe the round of the quarterfinals. I don't see them going beyond that. If they do, I think you have to build Joachim Low a statue, I think, in Munich Square.
Maybe not in that pose. Maybe not in that pose. But I mean, yeah, I think for Germany, just to add to this, I feel the fact that Toni Rüdiger and Kai Havertz won the Champions League at the tail end of the season kind of helped gather some momentum. But obviously there is some inconsistency seeping through the lines, and Toni Kroos, like you said, can only do so much. I mean, once you cut the supply, you don't have a German team that's lethal. I mean, they definitely blunted by that.
If I may add, the one guy who's also impressed me in Germany has been Serge Gnabry. I think he's done really well.
Yep.
He's not scored the goals that maybe should have come his way, but I think he's one of the players who's made them offensively tick, because all the games he's played, he's been a real threat. So, him and Kai Havertz, I think, have shared the bulk of the load in terms of creating and scoring goals. Mm-hmm. But had it not been for these two, Germany would have been I think they would have been eliminated in the group stages, had it not been for Kai Havertz and Serge Gnabry.
Yeah. So moving on to Germany's opponents, our favorite team to talk about. Now I started. My first Euros was obviously the 2004 Euros, because I wasn't able to find any coverage before that. So the hype around the England team back then was amazing, and that made me watch England a lot, because I thought, okay, this team. And at that point, that team was their team to win it. I mean, I think if England ever had a chance to win a major tournament, a world tournament, or an international tournament, it was that era, that era of the class of 92 from Manchester, the Gerrards, the Lampards, the Scholes. And from that point till today, the story has been exactly the same. I mean, we've seen from 2004 till 2020, we've seen Portugal go from an average team to winning the Euros to, semi-average. We've seen Germany go from, rising to conquering to falling again. And we've seen Spain go from places to places and now coming to the end of the cycle. With England, it's just been a constant vicious circle. It's not been a cycle. What is wrong with this team? I mean, even in the group stages, we saw that on paper, this team should be scoring goals. This team should be banging 3-4 goals minimum, and they just struggled. What do you think is causing this?
I think, now it's very easy for us to talk, but the one thing that's very, very apparent is, some of the players were sitting on the bench. Jadon Sancho on the bench. Jack Grealish, he started the last. Did he start the last game? I don't know.
He started. He also assisted the first one.
He assisted the goal as well.
Yeah.
But the first 2 games he was missing. Rashford, I have no qualms about sitting on the bench, because as a United fan, I want him to play as less as possible because of his injury. But he's on the bench. Now you start to wonder what Gareth Southgate is really thinking about. Does he want to be a team that is anti what the fans want, because looking at this squad, a lot of England fans assumed that this Euros was, even if they didn't win it, was one of their best technical teams ever, with the sort of all the young blood that they had. You've got Jadon Sancho, who's one of the best players in the Bundesliga. Jack Grealish, who's literally carried Aston Villa. Rashford on his day, of course, can score you goals, can give you assists. Harry Kane, of course, has been a consistent goal scorer in the Premier League over the last few years. Sterling, despite having a horrible last season, he's got pedigree. Of course, he's got pedigree. He scored 2 goals as well. And you look at all of these elements. You've got Mason Mount, who had a fabulous season. You look at all of these elements, and you think England are going to score goals. Whether they let in an equal amount at the back, you never know. But they definitely are going to score goals. But the 3 games have been so anti what we've all expected. It's almost as if... I think it's also got to do with the press. I think the British media, creates such a hype surrounding every single thing. With this particular England squad, I think there's a lot of hype that went in. This is the youngest squad. This is the most talented squad we've had since 04. We've got so many brilliant young players. We're going to do this. I think all of that puts a lot of pressure on the manager as well, because then he's expected to rise up to all of these comments and sort of put a team together that possibly a lot of people are thinking about. But I think he's also trying to show his authority in a way, because he's picked teams which people have not expected at all, and he's got the results. They've qualified, they've topped their group, so you can't fault them on that. But again, England, have played within themselves. It's not been the sort of expansive football that you want to see. On the other hand, they've been defensively solid. You have to give them that. They've not conceded a lot of goals. They haven't conceded at all.
They haven't conceded at all, actually.
To be fair to them. But again, going back to what people expect them to do, people expect them to play a very attacking brand of football with all these talents featuring, and Southgate magically amalgamating all of them into one team. But I think you have to also see, all of us are, armchair pundits sitting here. We don't know what goes on in training. We don't know whether Jadon Sancho has an attitude problem. We don't know. There must be some reason why he is picking Sterling, who's had a horrible season, over Jadon Sancho, who's had a brilliant second half of the Bundesliga. So we don't know. I think the only answers that we can get will be now when they play Germany. I think it will be a test for them, because I think England and Germany are on the same level in terms of where they are currently. I think they are similar in terms of the talent that they possess. England, of course, possesses a better number 9 than Germany, but overall, I think they are similar teams, evenly matched. Now, if England get past this, then we're talking. Because then they play the big guns. And for everything that we talk, the proof of the pudding will be in the results that they get, right? If they win all games from now till the end of the tournament 1-0, nobody cares. And everybody will forget about the brand of football they wanted to see. So it's all about how Gareth Southgate manages expectations. Maybe he has the formula. Maybe we don't know. Maybe this is the formula. Winning 1-0. In tournaments like this, all it matters is, is that you're winning games. Whether you win 3-2 or 1-0 or 5-4, doesn't matter. So I think with England, we just need to wait a bit before we pass any sort of judgment. We need to see how they do in the knockout phases for us to then say, okay, I think Gareth Southgate got it wrong, or maybe he could have done this, or maybe he could have done that. Till now, they've topped the group. They've not conceded any goals. So those are positives, I guess, to take into a tournament like this. It must fill the team with confidence ahead of a vital game against Germany.
Yeah, and it kind of resonates with Spain's World Cup winning season. If you remember, Mayukh, they had won most of the games by a margin of 1, and even
and the Euros.
And the Euros too. And this when they had Xavi and Iniesta in midfield. I mean, and you would
except for the fact that they played some fabulous football, which is quite contrary to
exactly.
That is the point I just want to make on if you see on a historical basis, every team had a certain kind of playing style. Though I know in modern day football, everything is being that style, the old style of play are getting replaced by completely a modern brand of footballs. It's much more tactical, much more. You can say it's a much more tactical and very slow going. But if you see historically that just like Abhik spoke, Italy had a branch relying heavily on defense, and they used to go on quick counter, the Catanaccio style, if I'm not wrong, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Then we had the German, that old school attacking football from the Germans. We had a certain kind of play from Brazil. We had a certain kind of play from France. But and the total football, of course, invented by the Dutch. But England always lacked on a style of play. They had no football style, which was their identity, which I personally feel it was always big names. Sometimes it was somebody like Gaza and Lineker coming out and scoring certain goals, winning certain matches, creating a sensation, or whether it is the English team in '96 suddenly coming and doing creating something, or it's the Beckhams or the Gerrards or the Lampards or the Scholes trying something unique. But England historically has always lacked a style of play, and which I find, which is a lot to do with their footballing identity, and that is the reason why they have never managed to create a football identity of their own, which I feel is a very England needs to have a very uh, microscopic view of the same and just to address it. But I don't think English media will allow that. That's for sure.
I think the closest they've come to having a football identity is when Sir Bobby Robson was the manager of England, when they got knocked out by Argentina in the World Cup. That England side, I felt, had an identity. Yeah. They played football in a certain way, and that's, I think, the last where you saw. And all the managers who've come after that have been such misfits for me, and it's surprising because I would have to think that England would attract some of the best managers in the world. But when you're looking at Sven-Göran Eriksson, or when you're looking at Roy Hodgson or Sam Allardyce, it's been such a a procession of managers who've been misfits. And you look at some of them and you start in one, and you sit down and you wonder whether they were whether the FA was, serious when they sort of made these appointments, because it completely ties into what you're saying. A lot of these managers like Sam Allardyce, etc., you talk about Sam Allardyce, this image just popped into your head, you know what I'm talking about. Roy Hodgson, with all due respect to him, I think he was okay, fine, but not someone who you will sit up and say, okay, this is the guy to take England to the next level. Sven-Göran Eriksson, I think, I don't know, hit and miss here and there, but if you look at the whole impact he had, he missed because he played Scholes out left, and I'll never forgive him for that. So, and you sort of look at all of this and you wonder why England has not been able to implement a national playing philosophy. I think it's because the sort of managers who've come in don't have the will or the time to sort of impose this. Now, Gareth Southgate has been given time. He's been given time. And I thought England we were beginning to see something in the World Cup when I think they went to the semi-finals, the last World Cup. And
was it? Yeah.
Yeah. And then they got beaten by Croatia. So I was beginning to see the shoots of something, but then now he's completely turned up with a different style of football altogether. So, I think the only thing we can say is let's give Gareth Southgate time and see where it goes. But with the fact that some of their appointments have been, head scratching, it's just contributed to the overall mess they've been in.
Also, I know quite a few high profile managers who have actually rejected the English job, who were offered or supposedly rumored to have been offered, but it might be a rumor, but I have heard Louis Philippe Scolari had once rejected the English job. He was approached, and also Arsene Wenger had just made fun. He called it the most bullshit job in the world. So also we see high-profile managers rejecting that. So having said that, I think that brings us to the flag end and the most interesting part. I think it's time for the predictions. I think 8 matches coming, 16 teams, quite some excellent FA coming on. So let's go with my first match. The first match tomorrow, which is coming, Wales versus Denmark. A quick prediction from both of you.
For me, I think if you look at it on paper, Wales should win on paper because they clearly have the better players. They have players who are more talented. But I think the Denmark team, sometimes in tournaments like this, with what has happened to Christian Eriksen, those sort of incidents can often bind a team together. And a team that may not have generational talents or super skilled players, sometimes becomes much, much better because all the players are together in this and fighting for a common cause. So that sort of emotion and that sort of power, is very difficult to catch. It's only tragedies like this or some very big I don't know, something that binds them together. It's very rare for this to happen. It can be some incident. It can be a personal tragedy. It can be something that sometimes the fans go against the team and that binds them together. So you never know. So you can't count Denmark out of this. You can't count Denmark out of this. And I would like to bet my chips on Denmark, though my head tells me Wales are going to win this. But I would like to believe in that magic for a bit, and I would like to bet my chips on Denmark and say Denmark are going to upset Wales in this one.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Abhik, and this is particularly because of the incident that took place and the events that unfolded. I mean, fair play to Denmark. The Danish side was so they were so solid in that moment. I mean, of course, the fans were worried from both sides. I mean, even the Finnish team, they were class. The gesture from the fans and the gesture from the team and the support staff. This is what football is all about, right? I mean, I remember I was talking to both of you when this happened, and I think I was on an office call when this unfolded, and I got a text from one of my managers saying, "Hey, this happened, and will this affect you in some way?" Because he is not a football watcher, and I checked my phone and it just shook me. But full credit to the Danish team. It seems like a story. It's a story that's brewing, right? I mean, they finished with 3 points. And I think it's the first time in the history of Euros that a team has qualified after losing their first 2 games. So that in itself, these are factors which will definitely kind of bind the team together. And let's keep this in mind that the Danish team does have a few good players. I mean, of course, they're definitely not superstars or elite stars, but they do have some players who could create a bit of a difference. I mean, Kasper Schmeichel on his day, he can be a world beater. I mean, he doesn't let goals go in that easily. We've seen that with Leicester. So yes, I would like to see. I wouldn't call it an upset, but definitely the odds are in the favor of the Welsh team. But I would like to see the Danes qualify.
And also, as podcast hosts, both of us have this pathetic lust for underdog stories. So I think that would
Yes.
give us a really good story to be very
100%.
Yeah. So even I'm with Denmark on this. So the next 2 matches are pretty easy choices, I think. Until unless you predict uh, any turnaround. So it's Italy versus Austria and Netherlands versus Czech Republic. Are you going with the obvious choices?
I think Italy, of course, I back Italy to overcome Austria. Now the Czech Republic, I think they can pose problems because they've had a decent qualifying. They've played decently in the qualifying stages, and now they have a striker in Patrick Schick who is in form. I would peg that to be a much closer game than a lot of us think. So that's a game that also, similar to the Denmark and Wales game, that might surprise us. That game might surprise us.
Let's keep the 4th match aside because the 4th and the 7th match we are going to deal at the last. So next, let's go to the Croatia versus Spain. I think this is also a very interesting match, provided the kind of situation both the teams were in.
Yeah, I think for this one, I think Spain's going to take this one. I know Croatia still. Croatia had a very good qualifying round, and Spain not as much. But I think in that 3rd game, Spain finally found their mojo to some extent. I hope Morata finds his shooting boots because that is. I mean, I know it's a running joke and everything, but you need to convert your chances.
He did score in the last game.
He did score in the last game, but. It will be a very tactical game, I believe, between Croatia and Spain. It will all be down to which team is the most clinical, because I'm assuming both teams will have their chances. It will all boil down to who takes the chances, because Croatia is a hard defensive team. I mean, they have Dejan Lovren and they have Vida at the back who are literally warriors, and and on the other side also you have a pretty solid defensive unit. So the chances could be far and few in between, but it will be down to who converts them at the right time.
And the next match is, though I think this is going to be a very tricky one. Though I might sound funny, but I personally think France versus Switzerland is going to be a tricky one. So, do you guys agree with me on this?
Yeah, I think it will be a tricky game, but then you just have to look at the France side and bet your chips on them. As in, there's no other way you can swing. Just given the fact that you look, is it France versus Switzerland?
Yeah.
Switzerland qualify?
Yeah,
Switzerland did qualify as one
last
of the...
match they scored quite a few goals. Shaqiri was on target and they qualified.
Yeah, they won the last game. Okay.
And also on social media, there is this new term we have all heard of French kiss. In this Euro, a new term has been one. They are calling it as a French miss. They are missing so many chances. So I think Switzerland can count on that.
Yeah, but then if you just look at the French team is a team that they can create a goal out of anything. They don't need to create a lot of chances. You just need to look at Benzema has found his boots. You have Mbappe. Paul Pogba came very close to scoring against Portugal. Even he's somebody who can conjure a goal out of nothing.
True.
And you look at their side, and a lot of teams that need service to score, they are one of the teams that don't need any service to score because they've got players all over the pitch. In Griezmann, in Mbappe, even Giroud, Benzema, Paul Pogba. They've got players who can create something out of nothing. So they are not dependent on service. They've got players who, with their individual moment, can just take the game away from you. So, it might be a tricky game, but you can't look past France, in a game like this.
So, before going to the
Sorry. No, I was just saying that even if it turns out to be a cagey 0-0 affair, say till the 60th minute, I think France has enough firepower in their bench.
True.
Like Abhik mentioned, they have some key difference makers who could just turn the game on its head. So I think it's going to be France.
True. And before going to the last two, Sweden versus Ukraine. I think both of them had an excellent tournament, and Sweden was a treat to watch.
I think Sweden for this one, though Ukraine have been, though Ukraine I think have exceeded expectations, and especially Yarmolenko is really impressed me. But I think Sweden overall, I think they play better without Zlatan in there. I just think it binds them together, and I think they are another example of a team wherein the sum of the parts is greater than the individuals playing for them. I think Sweden has the edge. Though it'll not be a. I don't think Sweden's going to run away with it, but I think they've got enough to sort of overcome Ukraine.
And this is the second tournament in a row, in a big tournament in a row, where they have finished the group as the group leaders. In 2018, Russia also they've finished ahead of Germany and Mexico. So I think this is something they get in their favor.
Very, very, very physically dominating side. It's never been easy to play against Sweden. You look at the Swedes, and the average height of the team is I think 6'2" or 6'3". They're a very physically intimidating unit to come up against.
Yeah.
And they are a side that you don't like playing against. They're one of those teams that when if you see they're the next team that you're going to play, you're not thinking of a day in the garden with them. They always give you a tough game regardless of where the result lies. So I think I think they have the firepower to go.
So we are just running out of time. So the last two predictions of the night and the two biggies, it's Belgium versus Portugal. Quick prediction for both of you.
I really want Portugal to win. My heart is with Portugal. I'm a Portugal fan.
Go with Belgium.
Yeah, you have to go with Belgium, just in terms of the players they have and the form that they are in. It might be a narrow game, but I think Belgium might nick it 2-0 or 2-1. I hope Cristiano scores and surpasses the record, completely makes it his. But if they win, nothing like it. But my mind says Belgium for this one.
But I'll beg to differ because I always this Euro and Ronaldo since 2016 is a different affair. He just finds his way through. So I hope Ronaldo's luck continues and Portugal emerges victorious. So the last one, the biggest of the last time this match was played in 2010, it was a huge uproar, a goal cancelled, and there was a international buzz and a new feature came into play. oppose that. So it's that kind of a fixture, England versus Germany. It just doesn't get bigger. So a quick prediction on that.
I think it'll come home in this one. I think England will win. I think they're a better balanced side than Germany at the moment. I just think England have defensively better as well. I think they've got now with Harry Maguire back, you can immediately see it's also had a big difference. They kept clean sheet with Tyrone Mings, which is an achievement. But now with Maguire back, I think you just look at their side, and with him playing out of the back as well, they've got an edge on Germany. Though this fixture historically, has never disappointed us. We've seen some great games over the years, and Germany, can suddenly turn up on their day and do what they did to Portugal. But I think England have got a very slight edge, and I think they can win this game. Another 1-0, maybe a Gareth Southgate masterclass. You never know.
Rohit, a quick one before we end.
Yeah, Southgate ball for me too. I think it's gonna be England. They'll probably edge it. I think this game will go into extra time. For some reason, I think it's gonna be a cagey affair. For sure, England's not gonna go all out blazing, and Germany is also going to hold their horses. And it will. I think it'll be a game of attrition. Totally.
But when you say extra time, when you say extra time, you must remember Germany's takeout in extra time and tiebreakers.
Yeah, I think England's gonna turn that. I guess. I hope it doesn't go into penalties because that'll.
Yeah, I think England has to complete in 90 minutes. Otherwise, it's all the way Germany. And so one of the German players today in an interview also said that. He said, we just need to drag it to 120 minutes and then the game is ours. So anyways, it was an excellent discussion from both of you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Abhik, for joining us. It was a pleasure talking to you. It was so nice getting into the insights. And this is my request that we are not letting you with only one episode where we would need you to come for quite a few more. So Rohit, you want to end this episode?
Oh yeah, I mean, once again, Abhik, it's like I said, it's always insightful, like talking football. I mean, you think you know a lot about football, and once you speak to Abhik, you're nowhere close. So
yes,
thank you once again for enlightening us. And like Mayukh said, we're gonna bother you a bit more, and hopefully we'll get to talk more about Indian football and the Blue Tigers soon. And I know you're gonna have a busy preseason, and so we don't want to take into your time a lot, but hopefully we get to catch up soon and cover some more football like we love to do.
Thank you guys for having me. Real pleasure speaking to both of you. Hopefully, yes, in the future, maybe we can do, I think, a few more episodes together. That'll be nice.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.